What's up guys, Nathan here, back again with another gold fishing video. This is the companion video for my Choco Seeker of Paradise Bant Birds deck tech, which aims to basically play birds on turn 2, turn 3, play Choco on turn 4, and then play a clone with protection up on turn 5 to get multiple copies of Choco. This is generally a bird tribal deck with a clone subtheme. So the first game we will assume very limited interaction with Choco. The second we will assume more, where Choco will only be on the battlefield for between 1 and 2 turns before attempting to be removed, and that's where we will need counter spells or something else in hand to prevent that from happening. So our opening hand here is going to have only one land. I think this is a clear mulligan, even though we do have a gilded goose. So let's look for 3 lands would be the preference, but we do have a Birds of Paradise. So we have Plaza of Heroes and a Flooded Grove to fuel a Birds of Paradise, although that wouldn't come down on turn 1 because of the specific types of lands here. But we do have a clone, 2 clones actually on turn 2, a nice piece of protection with 3 steps ahead, and Traveling Chocobo can amplify our landfall triggers and help us play birds from the top. So let's start the game here, and we do draw our first land, which is pretty awesome. Let's go ahead and play a, unfortunately actually having 2 filter lands allows us to not really tap these effectively for most types of mana. And actually, now that I look at this, our Plaza of Heroes does not give us the color pip required to cast that Birds of Paradise. So I guess we will just sort of play a Flooded Grove awkwardly and pass. Then we will play our Command Tower, thank goodness, and play out our Birds of Paradise, which is all right because we didn't have a 2-drop bird anyway. Let's go next turn. We will go ahead and play out our Exotic Orchard, methinks. Methinks we play an Exotic Orchard. Now we do have 4 mana. I think we actually want to get a bird out ahead of playing Choco. Once again, we do want to sandbag and let the faster commanders eat all the interactions. So let's go ahead and tap for 3 there to play our Traveling Chocobo. So now we may look at the top, which I'm going to have to right click every single time. Our top card is an Aven Mind Sensor, and then we will go next turn and reveal a Talon Gates of Madara. Okay, so let's play our land for turn. We've got a Plaza of Heroes, so we've got 5 mana here. I think this is the time where we play the Choco Seeker of Paradise, and that is intentional that we did not tap the Birds of Paradise for mana, because now we can swing with 2 birds, and it honestly doesn't really matter if we lose the Traveling Chocobo in combat here. Then let's go ahead and swing with our 2 birds, and we will get an attack trigger. So we will look at the top 2, and lands go onto the battlefield tap, move to the battlefield tapped, and then this will go into our hand. So that allows us to phase out a creature, so we will clearly phase out the Choco. That is phased out. We will go to next turn, and it will phase back in. We draw our Cloud Chaser Kestrel, and maybe we assume that that first attack, the Traveling Chocobo, is able to get through. So let's look at the top here. Okay, so let's play out our, let's be careful about when we actually drop our land for the turn. I think what we do here is we go Mystic Gate. Choco will get a +1/+1. Or rather, +1/+0, and then we will go, let's see, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana, and we want to attack with the bird. So I think we really just want to go 4 mana into perhaps an Arenicus's Vile Duplication to create a copy of Choco that has flying. Our second copy enters here, and I don't know if I can give this flying with Architect. So we will just have to remember that that one has flying. We have 2 mana here. The 2 mana can unfortunately cannot quite be used to cast at 3 steps ahead. Now here's where I would ask myself, do we want to tap the Birds of Paradise to hold up, or I'm sorry, leave it untapped to hold it up for 3 steps ahead, depending on what our opponents are playing. If we're facing like a heavy Grixis control deck, this is where I would keep up a counterspell just to protect our board. But if we are playing against lots of like red and white, for example, that have less stack interaction, then I would not. So let's assume we can go the fun route in this test, and we're going to swing with Birds of Paradise, Traveling Chocobo, and then Choco Seeker of Paradise. Now, we get 2 Choco triggers. We will move all of these lands to the battlefield tapped, and now we have cleared that stack interaction, and these enter tapped. Let's see, no, these are untapped, but the Broker's Hideout will ETB and sacrifice it, and we will search ourselves probably an island here. Island goes to the battlefield tapped, and we do gain 1 life. Then we will resolve our second Choco attack trigger to look at the top 3. Oh my word, ladies and gentlemen, we just ramped 5 lands. That is absolutely amazing. And we drew some more card draw. So we'll move this to our hand. And now we will probably assume that this traveling chocobo did die. And actually, the Choco did get in for an additional +1/+1, by the way, because of the landfall ability of the traveling chocobo. Now, before it dies in combat, we do get to reveal the top card of our library. Just have that knowledge there. So it's an Otawara. So that will probably go to the graveyard from combat, but that's okay. We still have a ton of lands to work with. So the only 2 mana that we had up here is the Exotic Orchard and the Talon Gates of Madara. So that doesn't allow us. Oh, we are actually able to pay for Winged Words here because we do control a creature with flying to draw 2 cards. So let's draw 2 cards, and then we're going to go next turn, turn 6. That's awesome that we did get the Otawara there. Let's see, for some emergency removal. So let's see, I think we actually just go full degeneracy and just clone Choco again and keep up the interaction. So if we play out our forest, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 mana at our disposal. So we're absolutely going to slam out a Sakashima and then a Spark Double, leaving us up 3 mana to have the counterspell protection with 3 steps ahead. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's see, leaving 4 up there. So now we will have, oh my goodness, folks, we will have this enter with a 1/1 counter, and we will have 4 copies of Choco. So now 3, these will actually get a +1/+0 because we did have that forest enter, which +1 power, +1 power. Then we go to combat and we swing with Choco, Choco, and a Birds of Paradise, giving us a total of 4 Choco triggers worth 3 each. So we will go, let's see, Yavimaya Coast to the battlefield. We will put Judge's Familiar into our hand. This goes into the graveyard. We will resolve a second trigger. Second trigger is a Flooded Strand onto the battlefield tapped. Side quest, raise a Chocobo. Probably not necessary here. We more want flying with Ward. So SCR will go to our hand, and then side quest, raise a Chocobo to... Actually, side quest, raise a Chocobo is a good way to get an overrun. We're actually going to change that around. So SCR will go to the graveyard, and then the side quest, raise a Chocobo into our hand. That is our second trigger. So let's go third trigger for 3. That goes to the battlefield. Sea of Clouds goes to the battlefield. Quantum Misalignment to our hand, and then we will resolve our 4th trigger here. Sakashima, Arcane Denial, Mask Vandal. I think we probably want to go full Degenerate, I think. Maybe just as a backup copy of Choco there. So Mask Vandal go to the graveyard, Arcane Denial go to the graveyard. So that has left us with, if we organize our lands here, 4 mana to work with. We do have a counterspell in hand, so that's going to allow us to also hold up an Otawara, which is pretty decent. Is there anything we want to play in our second main phase? Maybe we actually, here's where, you know, again, you have to sort of read your opponents a little bit. I don't want to play out another clone at the risk of a board wipe, but I think it is actually worth possibly running out Judge's Familiar plus side quest, raise a Chocobo, because we actually get that flip to then allow us to overrun next turn. So let's actually go out Judge's Familiar, side quest, raise a Chocobo. Again, sort of assuming that we don't need to hold up the counterspell, but in a normal game, probably here as we would hold up the counterspell. For demonstration purposes, we'll go next turn holding only 1 mana up. Let's even assume that perhaps, man, if you were the opponent here, would you even try to erase a single Choco off of the battlefield? Because it's already delivered so much value. It really is sort of a board wipe now or bust type of situation. So I feel like we're actually kind of protected from assumptions for like targeted removal, but I guess we could just assume that maybe they remove the token there, and maybe, I don't know, maybe they banded together and removed another clone. I think that's a fair assumption that we got to set ourselves back a little bit here. 16 green mana. Side quest raise a chocobo will, I guess this just flips over. This will trigger at the beginning of our first main phase, so we will flip that into black chocobo. And I suppose this can search up, we already have our Plaza here, and Talon Gates of Madar, which are both our protection lands. So I think the only real land we would want is perhaps just a fetch land to help trigger our chocobos even more. So we'll go to battlefield tapped off to the side here. And then whenever land you control enters birds, you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. We're going to have to resolve a bunch of degeneracy here if we continue to attack. Let's go Aven Mind Sensor for 3, Cloud Chaser Kestrel for 3, and then Quantum Misalignment will create another copy of Choco. One copy has been created. This will be rebounded. And then we, okay, so let's organize like this. These cannot attack. We have 5 birds that can attack because technically transforming the card does not remove it from the battlefield. So the black Choco does not have summoning sickness. So we're probably going to sacrifice at least our regular commander in combat, the black Chocobo. And then so let's go 2 attackers, 3 attackers, 4 attackers, 5 attackers, and now we get to resolve 3 Choco triggers. So this is where it's important to goldfish your deck and resolve this quickly because your opponents are going to be bored to tears. So let's go 5 for 5 3 times. So let's see, let's go Brushland onto the battlefield, Breeding Pool onto the battlefield. We will also grab a Reconnaissance into our hand, and these will go into the graveyard. Second trigger, let's go look at the top 5, and then we will go Prismatic Vista onto the battlefield. Absolutely, Auron's Epiphany goes into our hand, and the rest go into our graveyard there. Then we will go third trigger is our last trigger. Horizon of Progress goes to battlefield. Cabaret Courtyard move to battlefield, and then Wooded Bastion move to battlefield with a Swan Song moving to our hand. And now, because all of these landfalls have happened, each bird we control has got, I don't know, +7/+0 or something insane until end of turn. And on top of our Chocos getting that massive buff as well. So I think just for the sake of goldfishing, I think we can assume that we definitely won this game. I think that I want to include maybe a Crater Hoof or something like a Mass Manipulation in the deck going forward to really make use of all of this mana. We would have been able to potentially also cast an Auron's Epiphany next turn to definitely close out the game then. So let's go ahead and restart the game, and we're going to assume that we are maybe at a higher bracket 3 or low bracket 4 where there's plenty of interaction. So when we look at our lands in our opening hand, we have 2 lands plus an Eagles of the North, which is basically a tapped land, plus a Misty Rainforest. We have a copy spell, and a board wipe. So we've got good offensive and defensive options here. Let's go first turn. Realm Walker allows us to have some card advantage. I think we probably want to just play out our Mystery Rainforest, although we could save that for another landfall trigger, like a double landfall trigger next turn. If we played out the Mystery Rainforest, we would fix ourselves for colors by searching up the Triome Spar's headquarters. I think we probably want to save the extra landfall trigger would be my assumption here. So let's go Temple Garden, untapped, I'm thinking, because then we can pay the 1 to cast the Eagles of the North, although we don't have a 2-drop. So let's actually have it enter tapped because next turn, because we don't have a 2-drop, although we might draw a 2-drop. Let's have it enter untapped. Then Eagles of the North, we will cycle to look for a Plains. Spar's headquarters will go to our hand from that, being that this does not specify a basic Plains. Then we will go next turn, turn 2. All right, Broker's Hideout is another great landfall trigger here. So then let's go Spar's headquarter, I think tapped because we don't have a great turn 2 play. Let's go next turn to turn 3. Okay, so now we have the choice between Realm Walker for card advantage or Aven Mind Sensor. I think we might actually want the card advantage, although people might still be ramping in the early games. So here, I think actually it's smart to play out a Breeding Pool, and then we would obviously hold up our mana on our opponent's turns, but we would play out the Aven Mind Sensor as our first bird, sandbagging just a little bit. Okay, so then we are up for 4 mana. Technically, we could play out a Choco, but I think what I actually want to do is maybe save Choco for a double major play. So I think it's better at this point to continue to slowly play out lands. Let's go Misty Rainforest. We will crack it for another land. Turns out we are out of typed dual lands, so a regular basic will go to the battlefield untapped. We will tap for 3 for a Realm Walker. Now this says you may look at the top card of your library anytime, and we can cast creature spells of the bird type from the top here. So let's reveal what is that. A Winged Words, which will give us some card advantage. Okay, and here we go, Winged Words, there we go. So let's go next turn. This is a little bit of a slower start here. We do have a flyer, so I think we might want to just cast the Winged Words and continue to play out our lands. So Broker's Hideout will ETB and we will sacrifice it, and then we will look for a basic Plains and put that onto the battlefield tapped. Plains enters the battlefield tapped. Now we have 4 mana. We will reveal the top. Let's see, Fierce Guardianship. That would be great to draw. So I think we go white, blue for an Unsettled Mariner, and then we go 2 mana for a Winged Word, so that we definitely draw that Fierce Guardianship. Let's reveal the top here. Raise the Palisade looks dang good right now. We want to draw that as well. So that will go to the graveyard, and then let's go next turn here. Flooded Strand, we can actually just search up, I believe, our last island. Island enters the battlefield untapped, and now we have 6 mana to then cast our Choco with a double major on top of that. Copy target creature spell you control. Now this is on turn 6. You'll notice here, because we had to sandbag for the double major, we're definitely looking or appearing very behind, but here is where we will really start to catch up. So double major goes to the graveyard. Now once we attack, we will send all these into combat, and I'm going to assume that we actually lose the Realm Walker in combat and the Unsettled Mariner, but we absolutely need this rampant card draw right now. So let's resolve the 2 Choco triggers. We will look at the top 3, battlefield, and then Bart's and Boko definitely to our hand. And then we will resolve this one more time. Let's see, nothing on the battlefield, but I think we probably go Sakashima into our hand to continue the cloning madness here. So let's draw that. Oops, and then these go into the graveyard. Okay, so then we are going to have to pass. Do we have... Oh, and we can also protect our commanders with Fierce Guardianship, so let's assume that goes straight into the graveyard to prevent that interacted spell. Here is where we are missing a land drop, but I think at this point, if we're high bracket 3, low bracket 4, we definitely have to wipe the board at this point in time, so raise the Palisade for 5. We have 2 mana up. I think technically we could also cast like a Bart's and Boko. Affinity for birds. Oh yeah, it would cost 2. We have double green pips here, no problem. So raise the Palisade goes into the graveyard, and now we can probably swing for, I'm going to say, all 3 Chocos if the board has been cleared of blockers. So let's resolve 3 triggers of the top 3. That goes to the battlefield. Finale of Devastation absolutely goes into our hand. Reconnaissance into the graveyard. We will also resolve our second trigger. No lands, but we will get a Kestrel into our hand, although maybe we actually want the Esior. I think we actually might want that. Let's look at our hand really quick. So our next turn is probably going to be double clones. So if our next turn is double clones, how do we want to handle this? How do we want to handle... We could double clones, I guess. Then the following turn, we get a Kestrel to then start to overrun our opponents, although Esior is a better piece of protection here. But I think that if we look at Esior, spells have to target our commander card, and that wouldn't really protect against our copies. So I think maybe next turn... And we probably don't need the card draw, so I think Kestrel is still the best option out of these. So let's go Past Familiar in the graveyard, Esior in the graveyard. Okay, and now we can go next turn 8 here. So Azorius Chancery, we can definitely tap a land, play Azorius Chancery tapped, and probably return, I'm thinking, just this overgrown farmland back to our hand. And then we've got, so 1 floating, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We could play out Spark Double, Sakashima, and then we could swing with probably 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we would have 4 Choco triggers. Okay, so let's assume, just to shortcut this for a little bit, what would happen if we were to tutor something up with a Finale Devastation? Because what I'm anticipating is if we were to resolve 4 Choco triggers with 4 Chocos attacking, we get a bunch of land, draw a bunch of cards. Great. What can we actually search up with Finale Devastation? So let's look at our deck for a moment. Our best tutor target for Finale would probably be a mirror entity to allow ourselves to win the game. So let's assume that we skip to our next turn, right? This is going to appear a little bit strange, but let's just do this for a moment. Let's assume that next turn we were able to then we untap with a bajillion mana. Let's say 12 mana, Finale of Devastation, and then we tutor out our mirror entity. Oops, that's already on the battlefield here, or in our hand rather. And then creatures we control get +10 and gain haste. So I think that would put us probably within one-shot range for our opponents, right? Because if we're able to then attack with a bunch more fellas. Honestly, I think what this deck needs, if I were to edit something, is it needs a bristly bill and it needs a crater hoof to really close out the game, because our backup option could have been searching up a roaming throne, and then you have, literally, if this were to go to the battlefield with Finale instead of mirror entity, you would have the potential to play a Kestrel with a roaming throne on the following turn. We would get a total of 1, 2, 3 Choco triggers for 5 birds swinging, something like that. Kestrel, depending on how they would connect. So then we would have 8 triggers of 5 birds, basically play out like 30 lands onto the battlefield. And then Kestrel, if we're able to get in for a bunch of damage, we could put a bunch of 1/1 counters on our creatures. So I think we did have another backup overrun in our hand, definitely finishing the game by turn 9 or 10 there. I think that it would be nice to probably get a bristly bill into the deck, although that's a little bit expensive, and also maybe a crater hoof, just another Finale of Devastation target. So here I did not play out the game, I rather sort of told you guys how the later turns would develop there, because I didn't want to resolve a bunch of Choco triggers in the interest of saving time on the video. But I hope you guys can get a good idea of how this deck operates. The cloning method for Choco is so much more effective than playing straight bird tribal. I think that's definitely the way to go with this deck, by generating, 40 bajillion mana, and then maybe I should also slot in a mass manipulation as well. That's one of my favorite pet cards within Commander. So here's where I'll wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more goldfishing companion videos like this. And if you want to check out any of my other goldfishing videos, those will be on screen now.